media platforms. It could be Instagram, Twitter, or on Facebook, as well as YouTube, and get interactive with us. Send us those messages, send us those queries, send us those issues that are happening in your various localities.
Just now, we go to our first segment we call the Health Corner, so that we can get to hear what the doctors have prepared for us. As usual, it is informative, and make sure that you stay tuned so that you can get to understand various issues pertaining to health.
Good morning, viewers. Welcome to today's Health Corner. I'm your presenter, Dr. Lila Mkopka, coming to you from the Medical Women Association of Zambia. Today we're going to be looking at a disease known as deep vein thrombosis, as it's commonly abbreviated DVT. So what is this disease? DVT is the formation of a blood clot in the deep veins of the body, most commonly affecting the legs. The most commonly affected veins include the popliteal vein, the posterior tibial vein, and the superficial femoral vein. So what are some of the causes of these blood clots? There are three main things that are stipulated as the causes of this blood clot. The first one is stasis, the second one is hypercoagulation, the third one is endothelial damage. So what causes stasis? Stasis is caused by damage to the valves of the veins. So generally blood in the veins flows from the extremities to the heart. So if there is damage to the veins, it's easy for blood to become stagnant. And the other thing that can cause stasis is paralysis, which leads to poor contraction of the muscles. If there's poor contraction of the muscles, blood is not easily propelled towards the heart. Another thing is pregnancy. Pregnancy can cause obstruction. The other thing is pregnancy. Pregnancy can cause obstructions of the veins, and this can also cause stagnation. So now when there's stagnation of the blood, it causes easy coagulation of the blood as the platelets come together, cause the blood cells. So if there's stasis of the blood, it is easy for the platelets to come together and coagulate, and this leads to formation of a blood clot. The second thing is hypercoagulable state. So some of the things that can increase or can lead to having a hypercoagulable state include cancers, dehydration, sepsis, and also the use of contraceptives, hormonal therapy. So the third thing is endothelial damage. Some of the things that can cause damage to the endothelial lining include surgery, trauma, and also the use of intravenous drugs. So what are some of the symptoms of this disease? The first one is leg swelling. Mostly the swelling is experienced only on one foot as compared to having it on both legs. The second thing is numbness of the affected leg. One of the things you experience will be a tingling sensation, or you decrease sensation on that area as opposed to the unaffected side. The third thing is changes in the colors of the leg. So when you compare the affected side and the unaffected side, you find the affected side tends to be a little bit red, if you're lighter skin especially, and also in other people it can present with darkening of the skin compared to the unaffected side. The third thing is warmth. So when you touch the affected leg, it tends to be warmer than the unaffected side. And the other thing that you experience is pain on the affected leg. So this pain tends to be severe depending on which area of the body that has been affected. The last that you can also experience is the distension of the superficial veins. So when you look at the affected side, you find that there are distended veins that are mostly seen on the outside of the leg. So join me tomorrow as we are going to be looking at some of the risk factors of this disease. We're also going to be looking at the complications and also some of the investigations that are involved with this disease. So I was your presenter for the day, Dr. Lila Mkopka, coming to you from the Medical Women Association of Zambia. See you tomorrow. How's that?
There you have it. The doctors always at hand to bring us information relating to health-related issues. And like we always mention, you can send us your contributions on this segment so that the doctors can be enlightened. We want to get that feedback and know if you're following. And if at all there's any other specific disease that you want the doctors to talk about, you're free to do that. You can just send us those messages on the comment section, or you can inbox us and then we will avail the information to the doctors so that they start looking into what you want to watch. However, for now, let's look at how the kwacha is faring against the major convertibles. So the Great British Pound is buying at 19 kwacha 35 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 73 ngwe. The United States dollars is buying at 16 kwacha 12 ngwe and selling at 16 kwacha 44 ngwe. The euro is at 16 kwacha 35 ngwe and selling at 16 kwacha 67 ngwe, while the South African rand is at 0.95 ngwe and selling at 0.97 ngwe. Those are your money markets as of today. Remember, these exchange rates vary from one financial institution to another. And yet again, the segment is up for grabs. In case you want to put your money where it's worth, come to Camnet TV and place your resources at the Camnet Breakfast and Money Markets to be specific. For now, though, let's just zoom in one of the stories that made headline, not really headlines, but made it to our news bulletin yesterday in Mafinga constituency, and some of the beneficiaries from the Constituency Development Fund, the 25.7 million kwacha that has been dispersed, at least in parts. Other constituencies have started putting the money where it's worth by putting up some of the proposals that have been brought forward into action. And the Mafinga constituency has purchased a grader worth about 1.9 million kwacha to work on feeder roads in the district using Constituency Development Fund of previous years. Constituency Member of Parliament Robert Chavinga says equipment has been bought to give Mafinga district to help facelift the area through the construction of feeder roads. Speaking during the commissioning of the grader, Mr. Chavinga implored Mafinga Council to use the equipment for the intended purposes. And we also have some beneficiaries of the Constituency Development Fund skills bursaries in Kalumbila district who have commended government for their support. Let's look at these two stories and thereafter we will discuss them and see to it that people indeed are put in the know of these resources. Let's look at these two stories.
There's no doubt that the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, is a critical catalyst to facilitating development in various constituencies of Zambia. Dance of excitement during the Mafinga constituency unveiling of the newly purchased grader worth about 1.9 million kwacha to work on the feeder roads in the district using the Constituency Development Fund, CDF, of previous years. Mafinga Constituency Member of Parliament Robert Chavinga says the equipment has been bought to give Mafinga district a facelift through road construction. Speaking during the commissioning of the grader, Mr. Chavinga has called on the Mafinga Council to use the equipment for the intended purpose.
The commissioning comes at a time when our district is in dire need of preparing several feeder roads that are in deplorable state. The grader will enable the district to open up new roads in order to facilitate the transportation of goods and services. Used, sir, to announce that under the CDF, we have a number of projects that have been approved for 2022 and the initiated undertakings includes 2 mortuaries that will be constructed at Tendere District Hospital and Muyombe Hospitals, respectively.
Meanwhile, Council Chairperson Duncan Kaunga says they share the United Party for National Development overall objective to improve the livelihoods of the people of Mafinga.
We are not going to relent in our quest to make decisions that are objective and just for the people of this district. Sometimes our decisions may be harsh, ladies and gentlemen, not because we want them, because that is the correct direction we want to take. Sometimes they will say, no, Bakari Pachomen. We are not annoyed. We just want to correct the situation. I must assure you, on shoddy works this time around is not negotiable. Zero tolerance to shoddy works. If you are a contractor and you want to do works in this district, get ready to do the correct works.
And the traditional leadership underscored the need for unity in diversity in order to steer development.
Many people have talked about looking at each other as one. What I want to assure you is there cannot be oneness if I, Chief Mbiombe, works on my own, Chief Manichifunwe works on his own, Chief Manawisi works on his own, and all these people, they work, each one works on his own.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News.
These are among the 67 students at Highquam Skills Training Center in Kalumbila district of Northwestern Province who have benefited from the first consignment of the Constituency Development Fund skills bursaries introduced by the current administration. With Kalumbila being a mining town, these students will be trained in various skills such as heavy equipment training and mining, among other things. The students who say they have been doing nothing in their villages since they completed their education are now happy that they will be able to acquire skills which will see them become self-reliant. They have since thanked President Hakainde Hichilema for extending bursaries to skills centers.
Twajinga mumiji, twaikala miaka ya vura mumiji, kumwena pona ngwankitone, ate wa mopa wakwata pa kushupanga. Kono twasanta, pakuitu twalapo kumaskuru, bakubamba tufunde tuikaleko ne atwe bana maskuru kyanema sana twasanta kubanda makyaro betu kabiji ketu santene ba MP betu bamuno mu Kalumbila district twasanta kine bakuba nabo bayingize pa muna banda makyaro betu.
We normally thank the new Dawn government for what he has done for us. Because, like for us ladies who had no opportunity, who had nowhere to start from, now this new has made us to be somebody. Has brought this CDF that we didn't know.
Others have told this reporter that they had no starting point due to lack of resources and say they are very grateful to the government.
Mbena kusanta ikyaro ketu kya Zambia wa president Hakainde pakuitumvina ko rusa ate baba mujimba twetwareko ku masukuru kaikyane masana na asanta sana pakusara kwa miwa mwanabo pakuitubika kone kuma training ya bibye kekyapera ne bavura bakankarwa bati Hakainde bakonsha motiba santira sana
ashinjikia wanyana na dizi kumashikola wena wakonda kuchosera kuyinja ndemu konda ikale example ya kutalira kudeje bana kamana nao ananyana yana fundisha kumashikola lelo diwawa yenda azata chikahana muzanga wasule kutwanankashi ndikuti president chikamona yi ukamwana kuishikamana ni MP ni council chairman ni councilors kamana anakuzata.
Thursday, 27th July 2022, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Garin Kombo told Parliament that his government had so far placed 7,802 students on skills bursaries from 48 constituencies valued at over 42 million kwacha.
Mr. Speaker, 7,802 recommendations for skills development bursaries in 48 constituencies valued at 42,377,857.32 were also approved.
Many young people have since been encouraged to take advantage of the conducive environment created by the current administration to acquire skills. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Indeed, those are some of the students from one of the districts in Kalumbila, to be specific, benefiting from the Constituency Development Fund Skills Development Bursary schemes. And they are actually appreciating government for coming up with such an intervention to say people should be allowed to attain some form of skills for survival. And this hopefully will in turn reduce the levels of poverty in the country, and generally just having a shared development at the end of the day. Let's zoom in also one of the stories that we ran yesterday, where Forum for Democracy and Development President Edith Nawakwi has described law enforcement wings as a clique of excited young people whose motive is to get to former President Edgar Lungu through the former First Lady, who is being investigated in connection with 15 floods. According to the Drug Enforcement Commission, it is believed that the 15 floods may be proceeds of crime. And speaking when she featured on the Camnet TV program dubbed National Matters, Ms. Nawakwi accused the United Party for National Development of political persecution. And Ms. Nawakwi has charged that Zambia will not get an IMF bailout package if the former Patriotic Front Deputy Secretary General Mombipiri remains in police custody without trial. Contrary to this, UPND spokesperson Cornelius Moitwa yesterday at a press briefing repeated these claims, saying no one is persecuting any person politically, as alleged by some sections of the media and political opponents. Let's look at the stories and thereafter we can comment on them.
Forum for Democracy and Development President Edith Nawakwi, after a long absence from the public life, Monday, 25th July 2022, was the guest on Camnet television discussion program dubbed National Matters. Ms. Nawakwi did not contest the August 12 general election, as she opted to back the Patriotic Front, who were replaced by the United Party for National Development, UPND. On the program, she talked about a number of issues, including the need to expand the agricultural sector beyond maize and improve exports using the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. Ms. Nawakwi, during the interview, described law enforcement wings as a clique of excited young people whose motive is to get to former President Edgar Lungu through the former First Lady Esther Lungu, who is being investigated in connection with 15 floods, as they feel they could be proceeds of crime.
She's just before a clique of young people who don't understand the political economy of our country. First, let me say this. It's an embarrassment to this nation. We are a laughing stock, and I said this in the afternoon with someone. I said, as a country, we are a laughing stock. And if our current leader doesn't stop this rubbish, it's going to follow him. Because today it's Esther, tomorrow it will be Mutinta. I'm telling you, Nyanis.
If former Patriotic Front Deputy Secretary General Mombipiri remains in police custody without trial, and on KCM and Vedanta opting to resolve matters outside the court, she said Vedanta has been a bad investor and must not be accepted back in Zambia.
And how they came in, picking up the mines for literally nothing. $25 million. And the devastation that they've caused on the copper belt. You can't, in my tribe we say, you can't be going back to Vedanta now. You need to be looking ahead. We have been miners as a country. We've run mines. And there are countries in the world that are in joint partnership with mining houses. Chile, for example, at a time when we were getting literally nothing from mining, Chile was getting close to 50% of their income from the mining houses because they were in partnership with the mining houses.
Patrick Soko, Camnet News in Lusaka.
As head of state, cannot narrow his focus on an individual. No. That is the work of the criminal justice system, and all of us are desirous that it becomes more efficient. That is the way we shall uphold, protect, promote, and defend the rights of our citizens. So, there is no political persecution being waged by the UPND government against those colleagues who belong to the previous administration. There is just prosecution at law. And all the laws being applied were enforced and left by the previous administration. The only thing that has changed is that now institutions of government are being given the leverage of freedom.
All right, Times Without Number, the UPND have denied these allegations to say they are politically persecuting their opponents, but it's something that keeps on recurring, keeps on being mentioned by various people, various stakeholders. We are not sure whether it is indeed what is happening, but ours is to bring you the information, then you make judgment for yourselves. So that was Cornelius Moite, the spokesperson for the UPND. As a party, he is also Southern Province Minister and Choma Central Member of Parliament, but however, in that capacity, he was speaking as spokesperson for the party. But it's very difficult to differentiate, though. I remember I covered a story one time when HH was campaigning for Kabwata constituency parliamentary by-election, and I put UPND president. The backlash I received on Facebook was beyond, you know. No, this person was like, okay, at that particular time, he was not campaigning as a president, because he's a president of this country, but a president of a political party at the same time.
He has
so there are party activities.
That and the president is possible.
Exactly. The Kabwata thing there was a party activity. There was no way, if you call him a president of Zambia while he's campaigning there, that means he's using our resources to campaign for his political party, you know. So he needed to wear off that jacket of being the father of the nation to being the father of a political party, of which that is exactly what he was doing. And many people really do not understand those facts. But of course, our person on Facebook was at hand to actually correct them and say, okay, this is what it means. However, Patrick, talking about the issue of political persecution, yesterday we saw our First Lady appear before the Drug Enforcement Commission for questioning in connection with 15 floods. Your take on that? Could that be political persecution? You also did a story with Edith Nawaki yesterday where she just said this is a clique of young people that want to follow the former president using the First Lady, and she actually mentioned to say this is setting as bad precedents for our country, because in an event that this family, the current first family, is out of office, it's definite with the precedents we are setting that she will also be followed. But is that what we want to project as a country? Those are some of the questions that you can be responding to. Call us and send us those text messages. Let's get interactive.
Yeah, so but I think the issue of political persecution, it depends on which
side of the coin you are.
But as for me, as a neutral person, I would also think that it's quite an issue that we need to look critically beyond and really analyze. But according to the PF, if you ask them, the straightforward question they will tell you is that it is political persecution. They are targeting us. And the former president, Edgar Lungu, was actually on record suggesting that they are targeting my family. The other time it was my son. The other time it was my daughter,
my son-in-law,
and my wife. Then who is the next person? Then they're heading to
definitely me. They want to weaken the roots.
Yeah. So, but for me, if you take it on the other side in terms of the Drug Enforcement Commissions, well, their interest is to also look into it to ensure that properties are genuinely acquired, to avoid probably abuse of national resources. That is their major interest. So for me, I think just like every other person is usually summoned, it is a normal procedure also if you take it that way. Because I remember we had a clip that was actually circulating on social media of a former Minister of Home Affairs, Stephen Kapyongo, who was actually categorical and saying that the issue of summoning people to appear before law enforcement commission is not a new trend. People have been summoned under the previous administration. For him, the previous administrations amounted to, for instance, the movement for multi-party democracy under different presidents, as well as the United National Independence Party, UNIP. So their perspective there was that it's a normal procedure, and even today, Sharon, you and I should be aware that people are being summoned even today to appear before the Drug Enforcement Commission. But do you know the difference? The difference that those people are not prominent.
Exactly.
So even you and I, as media practitioners, don't even mind about reporting about those people and everything. And so, but under normal circumstances, those are equally important issues that need to be followed. So they do summon people. Even you and I, Sharon IQ, is just saying could be summoned to appear, but you know it won't raise a lot of eyebrows because probably no one is interested. Oh, Sharon, whatever she has stolen.
What has she on? How has she stolen? So, you know, those. But
for these prominent people, because they have followers and everything, there's always an advantage for them to probably also prefer that preferential treatment, which others have also advocating that it should be considered. But others have also say that undermines justice delivery because it also amplifies that notion that justice is a preserve of the rich, because you'd find that the rich will be given certain privileges which poor people cannot be given. If you go in every cell, just randomly pick any police cell this morning, you are going to land in people who are going to. You're going to find that people have been in custody for 1 month, others for 1 week, without accessing a simple police bond, because probably they do not understand the process, and they feel they need to pay for this service. But the rich, immediately they will take them to the police. They will have their attorneys behind. And yesterday, it is no wonder we were wondering how many people were summoned in the name of Esther Lungu, because if you were saying, you summoned us here, you summoned us here, and you were saying,
how many Esther Lungus do we have?
How many Esther Lungus do we have? If you, for me, because it was only the former first lady who was summoned
and accompanied by the
husband, which is normal. Probably the husband may want to add 1 or 2 things or talk to something. Probably they may even try to even ask the husband.
No, just the support system, basically. Yes. He was not summoned, but if you are my friend Patrick and you've been summoned, obviously even today, I will accompany you to the police. I'll go with you.
Yes,
I may not be in the interrogation room, but you will know that she's around.
My friend is there. If in case I want something to say, okay, go and go to me, the lawyer there, or whatever.
Exactly. So basically, that's what was happening.
But to our surprise, so many people claimed to be Esther Lungu.
Claimed to be called.
Yes, you called us here. You called us here. So you know, at the end of the day, that's another aspect that we're looking at in today's discussion, Sharon. You look at the same trend of providing solidarity. Well, it brings us quite to an interesting episodes of our political calendar as Zambia, because if we remember very well, even the current administration, the current president, Hakainde Hichilema, is on record being accompanied by his supporters to provide solidarity. Yes. So we saw, in fact, Joseph Kaunda and Sama Chipioka died in that same quest for provision of solidarity.
Exactly.
Joseph Kaunda was providing solidarity to HH, but Sama Chipioka was just caught up in within the area where these things were happening, Sharon. But I look at the handling of the incident. We try to make a comparison of the 2 incidents. You and I covered the previous incident involving Joseph Kaunda and Sama Chipioka.
Yes.
And we are lucky that
we came out alive, actually.
Strain us, but we were not lucky that we couldn't avoid the tear gas.
The tear gas, we were tear gas.
Yeah, so, but if you look at the way the police handled that issue, I think they did it maturely, because they also looked at those people who were trying to cause confusion to the vehicle of the former head of state.
Patrick, that is one thing.
One of the guys was actually arrested.
Nice.
For acts of impunity. We also saw the police trying to reason with PF officials.
You know, one thing when I was looking at those clips after they were brought by Miriam, one thing that made me feel a little sad was the disrespect towards the former head of state. Of course, he may not be your favorite person, you may belong to the other political party, but the insults that were promulgated towards him and the wife, his family, is just way out of hand. And Zambian, as others would say, I don't think this is who we are as a people. And also, Patrick, one thing I noted there was, why was the UPND cadres there? You know, when it was UPND going to the police stations or police whatever for questioning, interrogation, or anything related to that, I honestly didn't see the PF cadres there. Even the time that Nsama was killed, shot. Anyway, it was HH who was appearing before the police that day. But I don't think we saw people from the Patriotic Front coming to stop him from entering into the premises. I don't think we saw that, Patrick. We were there. We didn't see those insults. And then one thing again is that this current administration and its leader, HH, is on record saying he doesn't want such vulgarism, such cadreism. Where did those people come from? Because in the first place, for him to have all that courage, meaning he was sent by someone, or they were sent by someone, those people came as a group. How did they trek from wherever they came from? These are the questions that we need to ask. If people are called by the enforcement wings, you know, they are there to answer questions and not to take over the country.
Yeah.
So really, all those things that there's actually a lot, and I'm hoping that the police were actually very, very categorical and very specific and very aware and picked up all those people to ask them why they want to bring back the change that people voted out for. Even worse, following leaders to police stations to beat them up, to insult them, to disrespect them. I think it's unfair.
Quite an important observation you make. It's unfortunate that they had to find themselves that time because they were not summoned as the UPND members. And for me, I would just describe those as a bunch of thieves,
hooligans
or hooligans who are still among the few people trying to perpetuate acts of cadreism. Like the likes of Gabi, if you saw that story we were doing in the Central Business District of Lusaka, where these people had started giving out spaces, trading spaces to mobile money operators in areas that where they were removed, and these are the same people who are charging marketeers there to trade within that vicinity. Now, if you look at those guys, Sharon, they give themselves responsibilities, even thinking that they are needed to come and beat up people. It is the same people, such people with such mentality, Sharon. They are the ones who were flooding the DEC premises to just cause confusion. And
insults, Patrick. The things you cannot even broadcast, honestly. Things you cannot even broadcast. It's really, for me,
we had to censor a lot of things.
We had to censor a lot of things. We had to just chop off one of these insults, you know, and he was not even ashamed if it's that guy, you know, coming to the... This is a man that ruled this country for like 7 years or something like that. It doesn't matter whether you liked him or not in the first place. If he wanted to turn us into whatever you were calling him, he would have done it in 7 years, but he didn't.
So I think for me, I learned one principle from the current president. He said, you don't have to like me to work with me.
Exactly.
And you don't have to like President Edgar Lungu for you to accept him to say he has been a head of state.
To respect him, to accept that he's been
So, these are issues we need to really detach. But to what extent, to what value does that insulting the former head of state add to you?
And on camera, that person was not even ashamed, was not even afraid that journalists were filming him.
So, for me, I think those are the people that need to be disciplined. I think we need to make sure that law enforcement agencies look into it, because this is not the end that they are going to cause such confusion. They are going to also cause confusion because we understand many people are still going to be summoned. And are we going to be seeing a similar pattern?
A similar pattern where you have not been called, you've not been summoned, but you're there. Why would you even find yourself your way there? Why would you do that? You belong to the ruling party. Enjoy the process of being in the ruling party, you know. You cannot continue making, you know, dampening an already dampened towel. You can't, Patrick. It doesn't work like that. Even if you dump it in water, it will still be wet. You know, you dump it, soak it in water for days or whatever, it will still be wet. So really, the former president, Edgar Lungu, is already out of power. You know, so there's no way. He doesn't have control of this country's wheels, you know. It is another man, and the man that you are supposedly supporting is not supporting what you're doing. Then what are you doing at the end of the day, you know? So really, for me, let law enforcement wings do their job. President HH is on record saying, let them work independently. But then if you are interfering in that particular manner, if you're interfering with the police, because that is interfering in the work of the police. For me, that was just a low blow, as you guys say it, Moma saying what it's a low blow. What do you say?
We don't know that. I don't know that.
Amos is laughing at me. I think he knows. That's low blow. What do you say?
Interesting.
But anyways, let me just read this story where Zambia police officers Tuesday manhandled United Party for National Development cadres who attempted to block the former Republican President Edgar Lungu from proceeding inside the Drug Enforcement Commission premises, where he had gone to offer solidarity to his wife, who went for questioning over the alleged ownership of 15 flats. Meanwhile, after an hour of being interrogated, the former First Lady Esther Lungu was asked to leave. According to his lawyer, Makebi Zulu, who spoke to the media shortly, disclosed that the case has been settled and should it be reopened, will be a total witch hunt against the former First Family. However, the commission says the matter is still under investigations and the property is still under their care. This statement was according to Matthias Kamanga, Drug Enforcement Commission Public Relations Officer. Let's look at this story. Miriam Kaimba filed this report.
What a day it was Tuesday morning, the 26th of July 2022, when the former First Lady Esther Lungu appeared before the Drug Enforcement Commission headquarters in Lusaka for questioning in relation to the 15 flats repossessed by the Commission recently in Lusaka State Lodge area, alleged of being property suspected of being proceeds of crime. With the tight security like a war zone leading to the Commission, United Party for National Development cadres attempted to block the vehicle that was carrying the former First Lady and her husband, former Republican President Edgar Lungu.
Get out!
What was more interesting is that the officers told the PF officials that they did not want to see the presence of Economic and Equity Party leader Chulfetali, as he was not invited.
You can invite people and stop them from entering.
Is Tali invited?
Is he invited?
Is he invited?
Where is the summons for Tali?
Is he invited?
You invited Tali.
No.
Did you invite Tali?
Is he invited?
Have you seen Tali?
Tali is not invited.
Have you seen Tali?
So if
he's there,
then you
okay, can you please? This is not deck.
Give instructions at the gate.
No, fine. Let's do
give instructions at the gate.
Let's do this. Mr. Mamba, then you sound more reasonable. Okay? What do you mean? He sounds more
do that.
Point at him. So let's point at me like that.
No.
Mateo, I know from Zimbabwe. I know from Zimbabwe. I know from Mumbai. I know you can't intimidate me. You understand?
Yes. Then we are going to know you.
Almost an hour of being interrogated here at the Drug Enforcement Commission headquarters, the former First Lady Esther Lungu has been released and left by the law enforcement agency. Her legal counsel Makebi Zulu told the media shortly after the interrogation that the matter has been settled.
We can't be doing all the investigations for them. We investigated for them to establish ownership. We should investigate for them again to establish how the building was done. We will not do it. And today, we are glad that we have put this matter to bed. And we know that the matter has been settled. And we don't expect it to come back. Should they come back, we know it is a witch hunt.
However, according to the Drug Enforcement Commission spokesperson Matthias Kamanga, says an ordinary statement was recorded from the First Lady and the property is seized and further investigations are continuing following her explanation. After all was done and they were back at their apartment in Twin Palm area, the First family chose to maintain a vow of silence but gave the honor of addressing the media to acting President Given Lubinda.
The former First Lady was kept in suspense for 1 week, purely because somebody wanted to do some window dressing. That was a torturous 1 week for her, torturous 1 week for her friends, for her husband and her family. She was supposed to have appeared last week, hadn't it been because somebody wanted to pretend that he is governing this country in a manner that is satisfactory.
Meanwhile, Imbato Kabushi Member of Parliament Boma Lusambo still maintains his ambition of being president.
My ambitions, I launched the ambition some time back, and it's not a secret. And I want to come and change the way Zambians perceive politicians. Okay? Politicians are good people. Okay? They work tirelessly. They live their...
Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
There you have it. There you have it. The low blow that I just talked about. I'm sure you've actually understood where I'm coming from with that word. And that was the former First family appearing before the Drug Enforcement Commission, Esther Lungu, and the husband, Mr. Lungu. Sounds very funny, you know, to say Mr. Lungu, but indeed it is Mr. Lungu there and Esther Lungu. You know, in the company of their lawyers, Makebi Zulu doing what he knows what to do, defending his people. I would simply say his people, because he's a PF lawyer. You know, every PF candidate that has been summoned, he's there, you know, doing what he does the most. However, Tutu Angulube was also there trying to act all bossy as usual. I'm not sure whether it's Nishi, whether it's excitement or what.
But look at the police. The police had to ask describe Mr. but you are being reasonable. You are being reasonable. Then Mr. Nguru was compelled to calm down. What do you mean? What do you mean?
You think I'm unreasonable? You know, that was the follow-up question. You think I'm unreasonable? But exactly that is what we are discussing this morning, the justice system of this country. Let's take a short breather as we allow our guests to settle in on set so that we can delve into this conversation. Good morning.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You are watching the Camnet Breakfast Show, Wednesday edition, governance and policy, everything politics. And just now we've been joined by our guest on the program to help us discuss issues that we've been zooming pertaining to the headlines. And he is the Patriotic Front aspiring president, Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba. He is also a diplomat. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's good to be on Camnet once again. I haven't been here for some time.
Interviewing a journalist is always hard. We just hope that you don't turn the tables and start interviewing us.
No. We actually are very bad sources. It's very bad. We just know how to ask questions.
Ask questions and not to respond.
But you decided to be on the other side, and you are doing it. So to just get the conversation started, Mr. Mwamba, we were zooming in some of the stories that we had in the news yesterday pertaining to the Drug Enforcement Commission summoning the former First Lady, Madam Esther Lungu. And we saw you and other PF officials that side. Just kindly give us an overall perspective of how issues were handled by the police and on your side as politicians, and how that transpired, considering that we are also coming on the background that against a perspective from the president who suggested that we shouldn't see acts of impunity, especially amongst political cadres. But some of the scenes that we witnessed in the clips speak otherwise.
Thank you very much. We are discussing yesterday or the video.
Yes.
Yesterday in general.
The video.
Yesterday in general.
Of course, I'm joking because there's a video that has gone viral, so we'll discuss that probably later if there's an opportunity. So yesterday, the former First Lady, Mama Esther Lungu, was summoned to the Drug Enforcement Commission. Remember that a few weeks ago, the DC announced that they had seized flats that they had found were abandoned, and they had seized and were calling if there was any owner to turn up. Of course, we quickly called it propaganda because they had identified who the owner was, and they had said in their communication that the buildings belonged to Esther Nyawatembo, and the whole country knows who Esther Nyawatembo is, especially that she was recently graduating. And those were the names that were called. The matter was live on TV. And so for DEC to speculate that they didn't know they were dealing with a matter that has been under discussion since 2017, we found it just a lot of mischief. So when they did call her, I think fearing insecurities because we are hosting the African Union, they rescheduled the interview to yesterday. And that's what happened yesterday. So we decided to give solidarity, especially to the former president, President Edgar Lungu, who was accompanying his spouse. You are aware that President Lungu is still party president of the Patriotic Front. Is yet, of course, to hand over power when we have the General Conference. So
but he has resigned as well.
According to the statement that was circulating at some point.
Yes, he resigned. There's a letter that is attributed to last September that was written to Cabinet Office.
Yes.
But he's still party president. He has divorced all his powers to the acting president and to the Secretary General. He will hand over when we have the General Conference to whoever will be elected as new party president. It is for that purpose that we turned up. You asked a good question. What was your view?
Yes.
First of all, there was unnecessary heavy presence of the police. You saw those militarized trucks. They call them Kampiongo trucks. I didn't.
Exactly, because he brought them in the scene.
I didn't until yesterday.
We've experienced that. Him and I have experienced that.
Militarized trucks were stationed at numerous points. Roads leading to DC were closed. Motorists in the morning were highly inconvenienced because the whole place was cordoned off. You even saw police on horseback. You saw sniffer dogs. You even saw those mobile scramblers. People probably didn't know they looked like lights. Those are mobile scramblers, mobile phone scramblers. So they can disable your phone network at any time in the radius that that vehicle is passing. So you would have a feeling like there was a war zone yesterday. She was just turning up to the DEC with us as supporters accompanying her. We didn't understand the panic by the police. I condemned the statement made by the Inspector General of Police that he unnecessarily issued an alarming statement to the country. If you were in the city, you'd think that the city was under siege. And for me, that was very careless. If there's anyone who knows not to issue alarming statement, it's the Inspector General of Police, because he's in charge of public order, law and order. So that statement was totally unnecessary. It had a lot of lies that we were not aware of. They were saying we had organized people from the Copper Belt, that they would impound each and every vehicle from the Copper Belt to be searched. I can imagine the people that traveled from the Copper Belt and how much they were inconvenienced. I actually kept on stating that probably the police had spent more money than the value of the flats that DEC was pursuing.
On that operation yesterday? On
the operation itself. It was so high level, like you're having an election in Zambia. You know, when it was just Mama First Lady telling up.
But those are the things that we experienced during the administration of the Patriotic Front. I think at some point when we covered the story where HH was appearing and 2 victims actually ended up dying, it was a similar situation. What is the difference? Why is it?
So the more things change, the more they remain the same. I thought the president promised a more orderly way of doing things, that the police will not be an institution of or a tool of oppression, that the police will not act to please their masters, that the police will act professionally. And on that issue, we saw the cadres from the UPND who attempted to disrupt the meeting. One of them even stoned the convoy of the former president. We hope that the police will pursue that matter, arrest that he was picked up, but we hope that he can be charged, and we are following up on that case.
Interesting. Now, in all this, as the PF, why do you feel this fight against corruption is amounting to a witch hunt against former government officials?
It's not a fight against corruption. It's a fight against the Patriotic Front and its leaders. And the last 11 months has shown that. As we clock 1 year, and when you review the cases that law enforcement agencies have pursued, if you check what they've done, you clearly see that this is not a fight against corruption. It's a fight to destroy the Patriotic Front. It's a fight to destroy its leaders, scandalize the party as a criminal enterprise, drive that agenda for Zambians to distance themselves against the PF. That's what it is all about, and they are abusing state institutions to that effect.
Provided that narrative produces dividends, but how would you try to destabilize a political party given a chance to run it as the president?
Well, first of all, the Patriotic Front, I think, did tremendous work. They built roads, bridges, ports, airports, harbors. They built schools. They built hospitals. New teaching hospitals, mini hospitals, district hospitals, health centers. The Patriotic Front did a lot of work. But of course they lost because of peripheral issues, issues of political violence, issues of thuggerism. And while they were attending to the issues of infrastructure, I think there was a pertinent issue, job creation. And young people wanted jobs. So we lost an election. So there's an opportunity which the Patriotic Front is going through of, I think, self-reflection. We've done an introspection. We've done a post-mortem to understand why the party lost elections. We have checked on things that could have made the party unpopular, and we are distancing ourselves from those issues, rebranding the party afresh so that it is attractive again to the Zambians.
You were supposed to hold a convention last month in June. Now, we understand it has been pushed forward, but when are the actual dates, and what is the work on the ground towards actualizing this convention? Because people are suggesting that as a as the largest opposition political party in the country, you should get organized and rally behind one person to be able to speak on behalf of this political party and Zambians in general in terms of providing checks and balances to the UPND?
We are keen to have the General Conference. We are keen to resolve the issues of leadership. We are keen to recognize that the current leadership is interim in nature to that extent that we are yet to have a substantive president. So all things are being done to ensure that we have this General Conference as soon as possible and as soon as is practicable. But you must understand the challenges that we are facing. Number one, the Constitution says you have to bring 6,850 delegates. We managed to do that in 2021 because it was a COVID period. We held a conference, I think that was largely virtual. But there's no COVID anymore. We have to look at how, among the 6,850, how many do we bring? Do we bring 3,000? Do we bring 1,000? Will this be accepted by our members? Will the outcome be legitimate? So there's an ad hoc committee that was picked that is chaired by Honorable Davis Chama, which is looking at all the details associated with holding the conference. They haven't finished their work. They asked for more time. We are waiting. As soon as they are ready, they will bring their recommendations to the Central Committee, which will then decide when this conference should take place. The purpose of the conference is not to divide the parties, not to destroy the parties, to build the party together, to ensure that you have a leadership that rebuilds the party and prepares it for the 2026 election. When it comes to the conference, you do not want to go to conference and have splinter parties emerge, have groups of people emerge. So we are looking at all factors, including the unity of the party, as of primary importance.
There's a narrative that the Patriotic Front is actually dying and using the first family to gain political mileage. Why don't you leave them to rest?
Well, that's a wrong assertion. In fact, the truth could be...
Just hold your thought, repeat the scope. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good, thanks. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from. All right, thank you. Where are you calling from?
No, we are talking to Morgan.
Please go ahead, Morgan.
My dear brother, good morning.
I just wearing a jacket is the guy. Yeah. Coming to the issue. It's not education. You know the problem is actually fighting corruption and start to begin the government, the ruling government. Any who are engaging in corruption must suspect and make sure that the unconstitutional investigation in that is doing. If you are doing that and you are talking on that corruption, what happened? Then you lose the election. And now even right now, the is in government. What they are saying, even those when some ministers, different secretaries, any other government institution, if they get into corruption, that's the corruption. If you want to election, and they shall be normal. That's the thing. That's those people. Because they are already in that Western government. Then you are one of the candidates of the president. You are taking time to go to opposition. The problem is that people are thinking that we have to do something because we have seen when the government retired and lost the consumer, we said to come back and also to go to get we saw that in the first job, what is
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you so much for calling us.
He brought out a number of
So I
issues.
can answer the two questions relating to corruption.
Don't forget what I catch you on.
Yeah, fighting corruption is quite hard. You had the president speaking to quasi-statutory bodies and agencies, and he bemoaned that already the CEOs are spending a lot of money on luxury lifestyle. They are buying expensive vehicles, buying expensive office furniture. They are living luxury lives. They have not cut down travel. They have not changed. It's like they don't know why Zambians in the first place went to an election in 2021. That's a trouble with corruption. He also talked about the fertilizer scandal. Not the old one, the $50 million that occurred in December, but the new one. He says, I'm aware that you are about to buy very expensive fertilizer. He says that won't happen. That's what it means to fight corruption. It's an everyday thing. Was there corruption in the Patriotic Front? Yes. Is there corruption in this government? As you heard from the president, massive acts of corruption are occurring. The duty of leadership is to fight corruption again and again. General Conference, I think I've answered on the issues of the General Conference, and my view remains the same, that we are trying very hard to go to General Conference and bring out this necessary leadership. You're saying the party is dying. Far from it. As you saw yesterday, the leadership came, our supporters came.
Are you using it, President ECL, for political mileage?
Exactly. No, not at all. I think that we have to respect that the president is in retirement, and that's one of the reasons we went to offer him solidarity. He's now a statesman. He's a former president, and we're privileged that he's the only surviving former head of state. He occupies a very special place, and I wish that this government can recognize that and begin to build the institutions around his office. Open his office, fill up his staff level. The office of the 6th president is a constitutional office. I ran the office of the 2nd president. I know what is involved. So the office of the 6th president is a constitutional office. And this government must ensure that that is opened, must ensure that all his invitations to monitor elections across Africa, to address Africa, are given to him. Because what I saw, especially with Dr. Chiluba, because there was antagonism between him and President Mwanawasa, Ministry of Foreign Affairs would hide the invitations that were coming for Dr. Chiluba. Sometimes you would get now the cost for travel, or you receive the tickets in your mail that he has been invited, and they're asking when he's arriving. That's when you realize that an invitation
was sent.
Yeah. So for me, let's help the former president become a statesman that he is. He ran this country for 7 years. He had an opportunity, even when he could have probably differed. Remember, he had contested that election when he lost. He said, we're going to go to court. He disputed the results. His provincial chairperson was killed in Northwestern Province. The observers for the party were chased from those 3 provinces, but the president gave an executive direction. He says, look, whatever our contention, I don't want political tension in this country. We will not go to court, abandon all those court processes, even if we have a legitimate case. So he paved the way for a smooth handover of power. He could have chosen to go to court, and the process could have delayed, and we don't know what the court could have ruled. But he chose the country above self. And we have a peaceful handover and the new president because of what we did as a country and what President Edgar Lungu did during those critical 14 days.
But others have argued, Mr. Mwamba, that as a statesman, he shouldn't be mostly entangled with PF activities, because he is now a statesman. So probably more neutral people or persons should be able to also
him solidarity. I actually
on this same platform. Exactly. That has been the argument of many people.
Well, the argument is misguided because President Lungu has spent all his life, the last 20 years, in the Patriotic Front. And if the state is rising to harass him, scandalize his name, scandalize his former party as a criminal enterprise, they are calling his spouse, his children to the DEC every day, we have a duty to rise and give him and offer him solidarity, and that's what the party is doing. In this time of distress, where there is huge activities against his family, the First Lady former First Lady is not the only one that was called to the police. So were his children. You are aware that they've been searched, that they've been called for questioning to the drug enforcement. And our contention is that, first of all, we have to be strong with the family at this time. Secondly, we don't think that those investigations are valid or are merited. If you look at the declarations made by his own ministers, who some of them couldn't pay even a single debt just last year, have declared millions in assets and cash, it tells you that that there's something wrong there. If the DEC is clear, in fact, all the files of the 27 ministers should be on the DEC table to ask those ministers how they've accumulated that wealth. But of course, they are not interested. They are interested in scandalizing the former family because they are associated with the Patriotic Front. The goal of President Hakainde Hichilema and the New Dawn government, they are looking at 2026. When they do a landscape scan, they see that the only party that has a countrywide presence that is very strong, that's 20 years old, that can quickly regroup and rebuild itself to be a formidable force against him is the Patriotic Front. Hence the heightened activities to attempt to destroy the party. They are not concerned about the Socialist Party, they are not concerned about the Democratic Party, they are not concerned about any other. But generally you can see they are attacking Fred Membe, they are attacking Harry Kalaba. Why? Because these are personalities that can challenge them in 2026. So the PF is a victim of that witch hunt. The PF is a victim of that malicious, concerted efforts using propaganda and using law enforcement agencies.
But with all those observations, Mr. Mwamba, why are you not playing smart by letting go of the former First Family so that you can deal with your political issues alone and leave those people alone? Just see to it that the party is also stabilized and strengthened in a way.
We've left the party, I mean, we've left the former First Family alone.
Because all the time you go there,
the
there's a story that comes out, like you're forcing the man to be in the public eye when probably he's not supposed to.
I think let's track back 2 weeks ago. Yes. The MPs went to the residence.
Especially
Why did they go to the residence? Because that was the day that First Lady was summoned to the DEC. And the DEC cancelled that appearance at the last minute. Our MPs had gone to offer solidarity. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
And do you think it is even justifiable for people to suggest that president is the former president is actively in politics when he said, I'm politically active. I know the context, but probably the way he was compelled to come out. I understand the context, but not everyone else would understand the context.
No, we should teach our people. The law does define what active politics is. And President Edgar Lungu is not in active politics. The person who's running the party is Honorable Given Lurinda. It is known. And Secretary General and all of us are Central Committee. President Lungu is largely outside the politics of the PF. What the events that you've all cited are when the party has turned up to offer support, solidarity, support to strengthen them during difficulties. But in by-elections, have you seen the president campaign go to any by-election? Have you seen the president hold press conferences to denounce this government? Have you seen any of that? You haven't.
Let's get into other issues, Mr. Mwamba, because on various, on your followers, you have also indicated, you have analyzed a number of national issues happening in the country. I'm going to start with the issue of the mining sector, where you've brought out quite a number of issues. And let's just weigh in on one aspect of the issue of KCM and Vedanta. And just what is your perspective regarding how that issue should be handled? Because this is a mining firm that was in contention with the previous ruling party, and now they are likely to come because they are trying to discuss these issues outside the courts.
I think for me, on the mining sector, there's something happening. The investment that has been done by First Quantum Mine of expected investment of $1.2 billion in the Kansanshi expansion mine, and the $250 million that will be spent on opening a new nickel mine. Now, nickel is very important because it's an element in alloy steel. So there's an opportunity for Zambia to create even a very effective steel industry with the production of nickel. And nickel is also used in electric batteries. It's fetching about $22,000 a ton. It's a high value mineral, above copper, which is trending around $9,000 a ton. And my questions would be, why are you giving FQMO these tax incentives, tax holidays? They are going to reap so much money. That's money they will recover just within a year of production, and they're going to produce for a long time. Stop giving mines unnecessary incentives that rob our country, that deny our country opportunity for raising domestic revenue. That resource belongs to our people. That resource belongs to our people. That I'm going to mumushili abantu besu they can exploit that resource. So our relationship with investors must be that of a partnership, not a master junior relationship as it is.
Where's the junior?
We are juniors because we give them tax incentives. If we have if we have reserves of nickel, this is something that we can do. And I hope that in that nickel mine, ZCCMIH has substantial shareholding, that it just doesn't belong to First Quantum Mine. For me, those are things I want to ask. There's an issue of jobs. They'll tell you we'll create 800 jobs, and then those people will pay as you earn. That's little, that's tokenism. They'll tell you, no, they'll build a school, they'll build a health center. That's tokenism. Recognize that this is your national asset, first of all. It doesn't matter who's exploiting it. And for me, that's a failure of this government, that they don't recognize that these are assets. We think that the investor is doing us a favor. We think that the investor is bringing $1.2 billion to expand Kansanshi and to open nickel mine because the investor maybe loves President Hakainde Hichilema. No, it's about those resources. Our duty is to ensure that they're exploited to the benefit of our people, that there is substantial benefit to this country, and that any new mine must have shareholding from the CCMI, so that we are not just benefiting from taxes, but we are also benefiting at shareholder value where dividends are paid to government.
To our viewers, in case you are just joining us, we're in conversation with Emmanuel Mwamba, PF presidential hopeful, and you can also join in the conversation by calling us or sending us those text messages on our socials and ask those pertinent questions. Patrick, you will.
Yes. Now that he was mentioning the aspect of tax incentives to the mining sector, the same sentiments annoyed the Minister of Mines and Mineral Development, Mr. Paul Kabuswe, who was of the view that it is not true that we are giving tax holidays, tax incentives to these mining firms, because if you check on ZRA, they are actually paying quite a substantial amount of money. Now, Mr. Mwamba, how would you quantify that? Are you trying to tell us that they are not paying as they should be paying? Exactly.
The major policy that Honorable Minister Msokotwane, who I've tracked for many years, did was to make mineral royalty tax deductible. Now, what is mineral royalty tax? Or what is mineral royalty? Mineral royalty is like rent. If I give you my house, whether you have gone to work or not, whether you have not worked or you have not lived in the house, you will pay rent. That's what mineral royalty tax is. First of all, they have to pay rent because this is a national asset. So whether they've worked, whether they've opened the mine, by virtually holding that mine, they should pay. So by making mineral royalty tax deductible, they are saying first, input your cost. What are your capital expenditure? Then what will be your profit? Then from the profit, that's where you deduct mineral royalties. And you know the danger with that, like we saw with KCM and Mopani, for 20 years they didn't declare any profit because they will load that book with capital expenditure, which then allows them to get free taxes on any capital equipment that they bring. Opening a new mine, nickel mine, you're opening a brand new mine. The number of expensive equipment they will bring and you are making it capital free, and you deduct it from the books, you will not get any profit from that mine even the next 10 years. That I can guarantee you.
Okay, so why do we fail to actualize the most from these mining companies?
Mr. Msokotwane comes from a school of economists that believe that foreign investment is prime, that you have to give incentives to investors for them to come to your country. Which thinking is I have to be very polite, I have to choose my words very well. Which thinking is folly, because copper resource is only here, Congo. Congo, there is war there. There is huge instability. There is no rule of law. Courts may be non-existent, but look at the investment that flows to the Congo. Why? Because of the resource. So there is this notion that investors will not come if you don't give them these incentives. That is not true. They will come. We are a stable country. We've enjoyed peace since 1964. We have a rule-based jurisprudence. Our courts do determine matters even against government, as you saw under KCM, and you have seen that this is a working country. It works. Institutions are independent. So why do you think the investor will not come? So we bend over for the investor to come. We bend over to roll this red carpet, even for things we can do. We ran those mines for 30 years, Zambians and Zambians alone. And those mines developed our country. Those mines developed townships on the copper belt, run by ourselves. So there is this myth, and that's why I'm personally calling out Honorable Msokotwane. Because when another economist said we can get more money from these mines, and copper was selling at $4,000-5,000, the minister Magande, he imposed a good tax, windfall tax, you remember it?
Yes.
He says your copper is trading at $5,000. In our estimation, you recoup all your investment at $2,000. So you're making this huge profit of $3,000. Here is